and say welcome everyone to our partner webinar. I'm Jim Snyder, the Director of Community Engagement and Marketing here at Quality Matters. It's a partner webinar we are doing with ReadSpeaker entitled Empowering Learner Agency Through Accessible Course Design, a conversation with Quality Matters, Idaho Digital Learning Alliance, and ReadSpeaker. And I am going to turn it over to Colleen Sandquist and from ReadSpeaker and let her take it away. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jim. First of all, I just want to say, I think we win for the longest webinar title ever. Many words up there on the screen. So I just want to say thank you so much to Quality Matters, our gracious hosts. We are great partners and so happy to be here with you today. Welcome to everyone who is joining us here today live on the webinar, and also those who will be watching it on demand. We're so happy that you have found this topic of learner agency, course design, and input from the IDLA important and impactful to what you're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and just start sharing my screen, and then we will just kick it off. Okay. Share. I'm going to take this out to slide show mode.
Looks good.
And okay, great. Thanks for that confirmation, Jim. So again, everybody knows the big long title that we have here today. Let's meet the team. So we're going to start with Brenda Boyd. As I mentioned before, Quality Matters and ReadSpeaker are great partners. We've been partners for a very long time, and we are delighted to have Brenda Boyd with us today. She's the Vice President of Quality Standards and Evaluation for QM. And I would love for you just to take a minute or two and introduce yourself. We're very happy to have you here with us today, Brenda.
Thanks so much for having me. My role, Quality Matters has had a lasting impact on more than 3 million learners through over 15,000 QM certified course reviews over the last 20 plus years. My role is to ensure that Quality Matters rubrics and review services reflect the current best practices and latest research in quality digital course design and program structures. Additionally, Quality Matters provides wraparound services from consulting to professional development to support the important work of quality assurance in organizations from K through 12 to higher education to continuing and professional education. Our mission is to improve the quality of digital learning.
Excellent. Thanks, Brenda. We are so delighted to have you here. And I love how you added the wraparound services, right? It's not just about the logistics of the standards and the rubrics, but also all of that other learning that can take place through your organization. So that's fantastic. Now we're going to move on to Jolene. So I had the great pleasure of meeting Jolene in Chicago last November at the QM conference. And Jolene and her team had received the Making a Difference Award by QM, which was so fantastic to witness this proud group. And I also understand that there was a second award from a different organization that was awarded to you as well, the Platinum Award. And it was for your work with Clarity, recognizing innovation or innovative uses for learning and teaching technologies. So Jolene, thanks so much for being here with us today. We are so excited to hear what you have to say about agency and how you're doing that in an online environment. Why don't you take just a couple minutes and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you for having us. We're so excited to be here, and those awards were really fun. We were a whole party at QM last year, and we had a really good time. And I'd just like to say that both of the awards really wouldn't have been possible without partners. Quality Matters, obviously, their guidance has made our classes better. We had some data to prove that, and that was what the first award was for. And the second is from One Ed Tech, and it was using data to make actionable difference. So again, all the partners, ReadSpeaker and Quality Matters, and all of our other partners and our amazing team is what makes that happen. And it's just making education more accessible to all Idaho kids, so that even the kids in the tiny little schools of maybe only 15 kids can have access to that dual credit chem class or different languages. And we're really happy and proud of that, and that those classes are high quality. So thank you for having me.
Excellent. Looking forward to the conversation. Also on the call today, we have Ginger Dewey, who is the Educational Development Manager for ReadSpeaker. And Ginger, why don't you come on and say hi?
Hi, everyone. My name's Ginger Dewey, and I've been with ReadSpeaker for about 7.5 years now as the onboarder, trainer, anything educational questions that you have. Prior to that, I taught for about 39 years and was over a learning management system.
Very good. And Ginger is actually going to do a little bit of a demo of ReadSpeaker in the Canvas environment. Quality Matters has ReadSpeaker embedded in all of their online courses. And so we have updated them to the latest and greatest version. And we want to talk with you a little bit about how some of the features and functionality of ReadSpeaker will help support inclusivity, engagement, and of course, building that learner agency. Also on the line, we have Erin Martin, and she is our marketing manager here in ReadSpeaker North America. Erin, can you pop on and say hi?
Absolutely. I will be monitoring chat and Q&A for your questions today. So if you have questions, please feel free to drop them in and we'll get them answered.
Excellent. Very good. So you have a whole team supporting you here today. I am Colleen Sandquist. I am the strategic partner manager for ReadSpeaker, and I am just so delighted to kick us off here on this journey of student learner agency. But before we get started, we are going to begin with the end in mind. That's the second habit of the 7 habits of highly effective people. So we are going to begin with learner agency. So our first topic of conversation, what is learner agency? How do the QM standards intersect with the universal design for learning, which again, the foundation of that UDL model is learner agency. We'll get into that just a little bit. Strategies that promote agency and how ReadSpeaker enhances that learner autonomy and agency, of course. So as we begin with the end in mind, when we talk about learner agency, and this is according to CAST, it is the capacity for active participation in making choices in service of our learning goals. So what does that mean? That means that learners are actively making choices to accomplish their learning goals. So it starts in K-12 with our little guys and giving them voice and choice, and it's developed and nurtured and grown and gets strengthened as we get older and we move into that higher ed environment. If I can sidestep for just a second, I had a really interesting experience. I listened to some podcasts. Julia Louis-Dreyfus has a podcast called Wiser Than Me, and she interviews these fabulous ladies. And the first one that I listened to was Ina Garten. And so Ina had made a decision with her husband back in the 70s to not have children, but come together and partner through life to accomplish their goals. And Julia reflected on this decision as agency, such agency. And I thought, oh, I always thought about learner agency, but this is a foundational characteristic that we build as we move our way through life. We get into the higher ed situation and also developing foundational in our relationships and goals and plans for our life. So it begins as learner agency and then develops into personal agency. So let's see here. So the universal design for learning, this is, let me see here, hang on just a second. Okay, so we're gonna skip back just a second. So I'm gonna toss a question over to Brenda here. So when we think about the QM standards impacting learner agency, how do you see those two kind of philosophies or schools of thought coming together?
Yeah, so I think that the rubric is really flexible when it comes to learner agency. I think a lot of people think about rubrics as rigid structure, but it actually gives you a framework. If you think about like a classroom, you know, the teacher's desk is in the front, the students' desks are in the middle of the classroom. They're all facing the teacher desk, right, generally, or the board. And so that is we walked into that room at 5 years old, and we kept doing that for the next until we were 18. So for a long time, that's the structure that we're used to. Online, you don't have that structure. So the rubric provides a structure for learning, right? So for example, standard, there's a specific review standard in the K-12 rubric 6th edition that was just released this year. And that standard is learning activities provide opportunities for interactions that support active learning. Now that can look like a lot of different things. And that enables instructors and course developers and designers to make different types of activities that incorporate learner-to-learner interaction, learner to instructor, and learner to content interaction. So 3 different types of interactions might be included there. And the other part that the rubric, I think, really helps support universal design for learning is with accessibility. So when a video is created, if it's captioned, a learner might have be able to make a decision to listen to the audio or read the transcript if one's provided, or listen to the video with the captions turned on so that their sibling could be sleeping nearby. So, the classic connection is the curb cuts in the sidewalk. Those are made for people who need to use a wheelchair. However, people with baby strollers, people on bikes, kids on skateboards, everybody uses those curb cuts. And that's kind of what we see with course design as well. So when courses are designed with accessibility in mind, with universal design for learning, then they help all learners. So regardless of their situation, and they give them choices too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. So Jolene, at IDLA, how do you nurture the learner agency in an online environment?
Yeah, I mean, all of us, I think, that are building online courses have that benefit of pace and place, and students can select that. But within course design, there's so much that we have been able to do because of the guidance of Quality Matters and because of tools like ReadSpeaker, things like letting students choose within their school guidelines if they want a proctored exam or a final project where they kind of do more of a portfolio thing. They can read the lesson text, they could listen to it using ReadSpeaker, they could watch a video, they could use headphones, they can not use headphones, and they can just read through the transcript. And with CourseArc, which is where we put our interactive lessons, we also have been able to allow students to get some ungraded practice and things, or frankly, a lot of them just skip right over that and they go straight to the assessment. So they have that choice in learning however they feel fits them best, and also often showing their work and their learning in a variety of ways. So it's really freed up our course designers to be able to scaffold that in and put that in for students.
Excellent, excellent. I heard a lot of different variations on how content is delivered and how students can interact with that, which is absolutely 100% in keeping with our UDL guidelines. So Brenda had mentioned that there was a 6th edition of the QM rubric. This too, also the UDL guidelines just came out with a 3.0. So I love that we are constantly revisiting and reiterating, because we're learning more, we have more research, we have more information and more knowledge. And so these organizations are getting that out to you who are actively working with learners. So we're going to weave just a little tale here. So UDL, the Universal Design for Learning, is the foundational groundwork of our great partners at CAST. Their entire mission focuses on broadening that awareness of universal design. Their tagline is "Until learning has no limits," breaking down barriers to content, offering learners voice and choice whenever possible. I'm going to show you the framework in just a minute, but it is all about multiple means. Are we giving learners options for engagement? IDLA is doing a beautiful job there. Are we giving multiple means for representation? Do I want to take the final exam? Do I want to create a project? What is my best representation style? And then, of course, action and expression. So we want our learners to engage in the content in a manner that is best fitting for how they learn. So let's take a quick peek at the guidelines. You'll notice that they are divided up into the 3 different categories. On a side note, a follow-up email will be sent by QM. You will have access to the deck and also to the resources, which you will find a link to the CAST Universal Design for Learning framework there. And I'll show you that kind of when we get towards the end of the presentation, but you will have access to everything that we're talking about here. So multiple means of engagement, representation, and action and expression. And you can see that we've got, welcoming interests and identities. There's a little 7 here, and then we have a 7.1 and 2. So those are the different ways or criteria where we can design for these options. So when we are designing content, we are developing these qualities that represent learner agency. And so let me talk through this just a little bit. So we're looking to design content that promote learners who are purposeful and reflective. So when a learner is purposeful, they're using that internal self-efficacy and acting in ways that are purposeful to them and also socially meaningful. When students are reflective, it's that self-awareness and metacognition, looking at the internal motivations and external influences and making adjustments where need be. Am I taking the action that I need to take in order to get to my learning goal? I can reflect on that. I can decide, yes, I am, and continue, excuse me, or no, I'm not, and make a shift. Resourceful and authentic. So this is a learner who understands their strengths, their assets, and even their weaknesses, and being able to find resources to support and promote their strengths or help with the shortfalls that they may identify as a weakness or an area of growth. And when we think about learners that are authentic, they're increasing their comprehension and deepening their understanding in ways that is genuine to them. So we think about cultivating that background knowledge, right? I'm going to reflect on what I'm learning here and apply it to a particular experience that I've had in my life, that authentic engagement. And then finally, we have strategic and action-oriented. So learners that are goal setting, that are intentional in steps to get those goals accomplished, they're planning, they are keeping their eye on the prize, and then developing those steps along the way in order to get those goals accomplished. And then, of course, the action-oriented. It's self-directed action that pursue those learning goals. So what actions do I need to take in order to accomplish my goals? So this is the ultimate goal for learners that have agency. Okay, so we started with the end. That's the goal. How do we get there? How do we think about learners engaging in content and voice and choice? All begins with course design. Okay, so Brenda, for you, Please tell us about the rubrics, the standards, why they were created, why are they so fantastic? Why does everybody need to be part of this experience?
Oh, that's a great tee up. Thank you, Colleen. So, the QM rubric was started initially for higher education, and there was this need in the state of Maryland, like, how do I know that the course at this college that they're doing online is as good as the course that we offer at our college online, like English 101. And so there was this need to compare apples to apples. Like, how do we, what are the standards for online courses? So if you think about the early aughts when online courses were, there were no course design standards. Everybody was kind of in the Wild West trying to figure out on their own how we're going to move the needle on quality and how, it could look a lot of different ways, right? So how can we trust these courses to deliver for learners on that, to transfer that credit into the institution? And so there was a fund for the improvement of post-secondary education. It was a federal grant awarded to Maryland Online from 2003 to 2006 that started Quality Matters. And so initially we were focused on higher education, and that enabled the first rubrics to be created, course reviews, the first reviewers to happen during that grant funded period. And then there was a lot of fantastic collaboration happening across institutions across the nation. And then that work continued as Quality Matters became an organization. And so this work's been going on now for more than 20 years. And we've always kept learners at the center. I did mention this is the 6th edition of the K-12 rubric. We have, it was initially developed based off the higher education rubric and with help from Florida, the Florida Virtual School. And so we have continued that work. And like you said, we've continued to iterate, we update it, it's regularly updated by faculty and educators who are experts in online learning and have deep expertise in doing course review using the standards. So we really created it to help learners. And so we ask the review teams to take the learner perspective when they're doing the course review using the rubric standards. If you were a learner in this course, would this be clear to you? Would this help you? What else can you tell your colleague to help improve the course? So we don't look for perfection. It can be, our standard quality is like 85% because there's always room for improvement. We know nothing's perfect. So there's a lot of space there. And that 6th edition was just released. I thank you for putting that there. The June 2nd, this year, we just rolled out the K-12 6th edition. And folks are just getting their arms around that now. And one of the features of that particular rubric is that it has considerations for courses that are locally delivered just for a school or district and ones that are distributed to other places. So if you have courses that you distribute to other places and you're in a district, then we have course standards that apply to those types of courses as well. So.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. So we are now going to take a look at one of the standards as I ask Jolene how IDLA incorporates these standards into course design and what impact does it have?
Yeah, so we are looking at designing from the very, very beginning with these standards in mind. And one thing that really helps us is having a template review, which is available in the K-12 rubric. And you can see that tiny little like 1.1T, 1.2C. So the T stands for template and the C stands for content in the K-12 review. And that just means that you can get a template review. And if you make some of the same decisions every single time you build a class, those decisions are made, they're approved, you've met the standard. And so that allows our instructional designers to take all of their time and creativity and their resources and put it to things like learner agency. And we had a great question in the Q&A that I'm going to kind of weave into here, because the question was, how do you how do you measure the same things if you're doing tests two different ways? Like one is proctored and one is a portfolio, and that's a great question. It takes a ton of extra time. And so our instructional designers have to figure out, these are the objectives we want to measure. We can measure this through multiple choice and essay questions through a proctored, or we could measure it this way through a project, but you have to measure the same objectives either way. And make sure that you're comfortable that whatever the students turn in, it does show that they know it. And that takes time, and it takes rubrics, and it takes a team. And if you have already made the decisions that meet the standards for the template review, you can focus all your time on content. So even if you are a professor in a post-secondary institution and you do multiple classes, you could consider creating a template for yourself where those decisions are completely made and you can just design from the beginning, focusing on all the fun part, which is really the content and how you're going to get that knowledge to the students and then let them show the knowledge back. So that would be the first tip I would really recommend. And just to make sure everybody can kind of leave with something that they could maybe consider implementing, that would be one way to increase learner agency, is consider the use of a template.
Excellent. Very good. All right, I'm going to stop sharing here, and we are just going to kind of shift to a conversational mode. And also, Ginger and Erin, if there are any other questions that are coming up, please just, come on off the dark screen. Let us see your face. We'll know that you need to say something. So Brenda, share with us the use of the QM templates in a post-secondary environment, if there are such a thing in post-secondary, and how is higher ed meeting the standards that is supporting the learner agency?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for post-secondary in higher education, we don't have template content standards. So when Colleen was sharing her screen and showed some of the standards, there's a little T and a little C after the specific review standard number, and that's for the K-12 rubric. We do not have those T's and C's in higher education, and that's because higher education is works in lots of different ways, and there's but that is not to say that higher education institutions don't adapt or create their own rubrics for course review. Or not just for course review, for course design, so that they can do like what Jolene was saying. It's the same for the learners. They don't have to spend their cognitive load looking for things in this creative course design, that things are where they expect them to be, and no matter what course they go into. And research does bear that out, that learners want things to be the same. So so what we have really noticed too is that there's a lot of different functionalities, and some schools have they have instructional designers to help them. QM did partner with D2L, Desire to Learn, their learning management system, to create a master course about how to develop templates. And so we'll drop that in the chat for you also if you want to check that out. But the rubric, I think it also creates, thank you, Jim, that it creates an opportunity for course design and learner agency. And that, the learner, so there's a standard that's about grading rubrics. It doesn't mean that you can't co-create your grading schema with your learners. You can in higher education. That's a pretty kind of cutting edge innovative practice, as well as ungrading. If you want to do that, that's great. It can be covered by the QM rubric because you are explaining what is going to happen to learners and having that transparency. So I think that that's been a very helpful thing for them, because we want to help them know how do you check your progress, and however you want to do that is up to you, and that enables the learner to know, though you still have to tell them. So that's what the rubric is saying.
Excellent. So I heard throughout that entire response, consistency.
Yes.
Consistency is important. Create a template, everybody uses the same thing, then learners can expect to find what they need to find where it typically is. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much. So let's see here. So an interesting article, and it's sourced in the resource document. It came across my email, and it was talking about learner agency and how learners that are transitioning from K-12 to higher ed have maybe a little bit of a deficit or a shortfall. So I really look at this as an opportunity for ReadSpeaker to support and grow and nurture in the K-12 environment, but then also help in the higher ed arena. So learners can kind of develop that agency and continue on their journey. And we talk about like the journey of learning. We talk about the journey of accessibility. We talk about the journey of universal design. We just start. We start and then we keep going and we keep growing. And so, yeah, I think it's great. Jolene, question for you. What are the greatest challenges that IDLA faces when you're coming to meet the diverse needs of learners that are participating in your programs?
Well, right now, I think everyone would agree that it's kind of keeping up with some of the new technology, such as AI, and finding that balance. Students, of course, love AI, and we need to teach them to use it well and make sure that it is promoting their agency and their learning. Teachers are worried about keeping the work honest and making sure that the students are really doing their own thinking. And local businesses are telling us, you make sure that these graduates can use this because we are using it at work and they need to be able to do that. So juggling all three of those goals right now, making sure we are keeping up with the latest technology, but making sure that they use it ethically and well and efficiently and all of those things, and balancing parent concerns and just that whole balancing act is a really fun challenge that I'm sure everybody here is engaged in. So that's our biggest thing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. AI it's on the move and it's very fast. And so, yeah, we need to be sure that we're just conveying our expectations to learners about the use of AI. All right. So, Jolene, when did you first realize the impact of that learner agency was like essential to the development of the learners? And how does that factor into the QM standards and ReadSpeaker from your perspective?
Yeah, so it was funny when we were asked to present together. I have a story from my very first week at IDLA, and I promise you guys this is like a story I tell anyway. This has nothing to do with the QM and ReadSpeaker are hosting this. My very first week, I was put on like help desk to kind of see what students were doing. I received a call and a ticket about ReadSpeaker not working, and I didn't know what ReadSpeaker was. I was the curriculum manager at the time. I didn't even know. So I figured it out. This is ReadSpeaker. Here's why it's not working. And the student who called in was actually, I was a principal prior to coming to IDLA, and it was my student, but he didn't know that he had been a former student of mine just the prior year. But I knew this student. I knew he was a really good learner. I knew that he didn't have a plan or anything that he was overcoming as far as like a reading disability or anything like that. And what I found out is he just really enjoyed listening to his lessons. And when he couldn't do that, he had the self-advocacy and agency to call in and say, hey, I need this to be fixed. And it was one of the first times that I realized that, like you said about cutting sidewalks, the slants in the sidewalks, lots of people are using this and it is really important. And we actually kind of got flooded with tickets because we had accidentally turned it off in all classes. And so it was a real rush. I got to work a lot of hours to fix that and figure out how to make it right for students. But ever since then, I've always remembered that all students are using these tools. What is good for some students who have special needs is usually good for all students, and it's really important that we keep doing that. So that was a good first lesson in my first week.
Yeah, I love that story. That's so funny. So you talked about the student who preferred, right? Just prefers that auditory input. I see someone in the comment, you never know how important something is, a tool that a learner is using. And so, yes, we need to make it available for learners that maybe they have a print disability, maybe they have dyslexia or ADHD, they need some help focusing, they have some executive functioning challenges, those learners that are identified, right? And in the K-12 environment, we talk about IEPs and 504s. As learners are transitioning into higher ed, what we're seeing is the non-disclosure rate is escalating. So learners have an identified need in K-12. When they get to higher ed, for whatever reason, they want to try it on their own. They want to be independent. They don't want the stigma or the label. When we look at making ReadSpeaker available to all learners through the integration inside all of the top learning management platforms, we're looking at giving this as an option to learners who prefer and who need. So I think that that's fantastic. Jolene shared a great little video with me. So it's 2 minutes. So I would love for us to watch this. And what I would pose to the group is, when you are watching this video, think about learner agency. Think about characteristics of this learner that are resonating with you, and go ahead and drop them in the chat. So back to sharing my screen. Okay, I'm showing, we're going to go out to full screen, and here we go.
Idaho Digital Learning Alliance, Idaho School for the Deaf and Blind. Everyone can create with iPads and progress dash link to attend quiz.
I'm Brandon McDonald. I am in 7th grade. My hobby is swimming and doing cheerleading. My favorite color is purple. I have an eyesight problem. My condition is LCA, Leber's congenital amaurosis, and I can only see peripheral. So I can only see from the sides of my eyes. But I want to participate in a lot of stuff to show that I'm more capable than people think I am. I'm taking the IDLA class. It's Everyone Can Create. I love music. At home, half the time when I'm on my iPad, I listen to music. I listen to Taylor Swift. And I love her songs. And I feel like maybe I could be an artist one day with this class.
IDLA offers a lot of elective classes that our students don't have access to here on campus. Brenna has loved IDLA. She has gone from being scared, being worried about how she's going to get the assignments done, get everything turned in on time, to having so much confidence in herself and her ability to do the assignments. She's learned about online safety. She's learned how to advocate to a teacher when an assignment is not accessible to her. Brenna's a cheerleader at our school. She went to our superintendent, Mr. Darcy, and she emailed him, had a meeting with him to bring the cheerleading team back. She's on our track team. She's on our student council. She's our middle school representative. So she is a gal that just takes on challenges. At our school, we have, it's called the CLAW, compassion, leadership, advocacy, and willingness to work. And she is a role model for each one of those qualities.
I would say just don't judge a book by its cover. People that are blind are special, and I think that they're awesome. People I know are really sweet.
Fantastic. So did we have any comments? Aaron, Ginger, do you want to come off and let me know what the people are saying about the video? Thank you, Jolene, for sharing that. I have my thoughts, which I'll share, but I want to hear what you have to say first. Any thoughts from the room? Okay, well, looks like we have a little bit of quiet going on out there, which is perfectly fine. So when I look at this video, I mean, it just resonates with me. So Ginger, did you have some comments?
Yes, there was one thing in Q&A. It says, we have a very robust program here at South Dakota State, including our own rubric and training program for faculty and grad students. That's all it says, but I wanted to put that out there because to me, that says that people are looking at these rubrics and templates and trying to make it easier for the faculty. We all know that faculty are fantastic subject matter experts, but they are not necessarily the technology expert. And the fact that you're using something like a rubric or a template or something like that, it's taking some of the pressure off and allowing them to be creative, like what Jolene said earlier.
Excellent. Thank you so much for adding that. Yeah, fantastic contribution, and excellent that you've created your own rubric that speaks right to Brenda's consistency. So that's wonderful. In the video, what I noticed straight away was that this young lady went from scared and worried to confident in her ability and in herself. So that was fantastic. She takes on challenges and a role model for other learners. So when we give students the tools that they need to learn in a manner that speaks to them, that is when we're going to see that growth, that confidence, that learner agency, that ability to self-advocate and be a leader for and a role model for other learners. So that's fantastic. We have had a lot of information coming at you today. And so while we digest this, I would just like to think about April of 2026 being just 7 months away, and how you can support your compliance and provide for learners with tools and functionality that is going to support how they learn best, and also increase that accessibility and also work towards your compliance for April. So as I mentioned at the top of the webinar, Ginger is going to be doing a little bit of a demo for us. The ReadSpeaker solution is embedded inside all of the QM courses, which we are very happy and proud to partner with them and give access to all learners who are participating in these courses. And we just did a little bit of a version update in the QM courses. So Ginger is going to talk with us a little bit about how these particular tools and features support the learner agency and accessibility. Thank you, Ginger.
I need to share a screen and I don't seem to be able to do that. Could you give me permission?
Yeah, let me see. I'm giving you even more power, so hopefully you should be able to do it now.
Let's see.
Maybe under the three dots, is there share for you?
No.
Not the green button with the little arrow pointing up that says share.
There it is. Excuse me. I'm blind today. Let's see. I want to share screen 2 and share sound. And now here we go. Maybe I can do it this time. First off, when you go to access ReadSpeaker in Canvas, it is the speaker on the left-hand side. When you click on it, it goes up to the top and you can click listen, just like I did. And please pardon me, I'm working on a PC right now and I'm normally on a Mac. So left is right and right is left. And sometimes I click the wrong button because I'm aiming for something else. But one of the first things I want to show you is in settings, you can pick your colors for your highlighting. And I like a yellow word and a blue sentence. So that's the first thing that I want to customize. The next thing that I want to talk a little bit about is reading voice. And when you go to your reading voice And yes, this is an international course, so we have a lot of extra voices, but there's so much about reading voice you need to know. I'm going to throw myself and my family under the bus a few times here, but I have some hearing deficit. I have 5 tones, which sound like Charlie Brown's mom. And if I use certain voices that hit a lot of those tones, it sounds like hello, and then, and I can't tell it. So I need to change to a voice that I can understand. And just because I have a little bit of a hearing deficit does not mean that I would necessarily go for some type of accommodation. So I have chosen Kayla. And let's listen to Kayla. We'll just listen to a sentence here.
Each person has different learning preferences.
And you can see the highlighting. Now, something else about reading voice that we like to talk about is the fact that reading voice can be used to help students recall things. And it might be you use one reading voice for one student, a different reading, for one course, and a different voice for another course, so that you can maybe make that association between the two. Another thing that reading voice is used in, and I'm going to purposely pick, we'll say let's see, I want a Spanish. We'll use Violeta. And let's say that I live in a home where Spanish is the primary language, and I am trying to learn English. Well, first off, I want a Spanish voice, not because I am going to be speaking Spanish, but because I want to hear it with the accents that I typically hear around the house. I have also slowed my reading speed down to 75%, and I'm going to turn on enlarge text. Now this combination, and I'm going to just take this second paragraph here, this combination of things allows us to hear the words as we would be saying them at home, maybe not the correct pronunciation, but saying them at home so we get the gist of the information. Then as we become more fluent in the other language, then we start using the language that matches the language on the screen. Let's listen.
Your institution most likely has other learner supports available. These may include tutoring.
Did you notice how it said tutoring? You heard where the accent was. And if you were doing tutoring in Spanish, the accent would be at the end, but here they're hearing it at the beginning of the word. Now you can make the enlarged text much larger, of course, or smaller. By slowing the reading speed down to 75, 80, you're hearing the individual syllables. So you are then able to hear exactly what you're wanting. Now, if I'm not careful, I will forget that I have done that, and I want to go back and put it back on. We'll use Samuel this time. And I'm going to go back to my settings, and I'm going to move this back up to 105. And I want to talk about the page mask. Page mask is more than just a mask, as in I'm narrowing it down. We can do color with it also. And let's say we want a pink center stripe, and we call that the focus area. And this slide bar lets us make it as dark or as light as we want, and I want somewhere around there. And I want a blue mask, and I need the blue mask pulled down to about that much. Now, when I go to my page mask, I can see that I can pull it up and down, and I have those colors. Now, when you're using the gray and the white, sometimes that's so stark that it produces screen fatigue. But this allows the student to zoom in on it, and they are no longer having those harsh colors. Another thing you can do, and some students require their settings to their screens to be a particular color. Let's say they need it as a blue color. So I'm going to make my focus area blue, and I've already got the blue mask. And I'm going to pull this up to about the same level. And now when I turn on the page mask, I have a blue screen. So if I need a blue or a yellow or a pink background, I can accomplish that and stay in layout mode. And the reason why you might want to stay in layout mode is there might be some direction about a picture or something that's on the screen, or you don't want everything justified to the left, which text mode does. This just allows you to get around that. Questions so far? Y'all jump in if you've got a question.
No questions in the chat so far. I'm monitoring.
Okay, thank you. The next thing I want to talk about is keystrokes, and I'm going to date myself here. I go back to when I first learned how to use a computer monitor before, or terminal, before you even had laptops. Yes, I am of that age. We use DOS keystrokes. And with DOS, that's your Control-C, Control-V, and all those great things like that. Well, sometimes people prefer using the keyboard instead of the mouse, or they have to use the keyboard instead of the mouse. And to do that, the first thing you do is, first off, keyboard shortcuts are located under Settings and clicking on the keyboard. Click on the X to the left of put focus on the player. Now I'm going to use Control-Alt-1 for putting focus on the player. And I'm going to set the play. Come on. Control-Alt-L. Now, those, I'm just setting those two. And now, if I do 1, notice how it turned, and then L. Why is it not listening?
View all pages. Learner support. Each person has different learning preferences. You may prefer to listen to information.
All right. Whoops. Didn't want to go that far. You can set up all of these settings in the keyboard keystrokes and then use them. One thing to be cautious about is don't put a keystroke in your ReadSpeaker keystrokes that you would use naturally. In other words, don't use Control-C, Control-V, something like that, because then you're overwriting the copy paste that you have naturally. The last thing I want to show you very quickly is if I'm on a quiz, and I'm on a classic quiz, and I'm going to go down to this right here, and I'm going to
enter red.
Well, you heard it, but I'm going to delete that out. And I'm going to turn on form reading. I have it toggled on, and I'm going to say roses
Enter.
are orange. And I highlight it. Whoops.
Enter orange.
And you can hear exactly what we typed in. This allows the student to hear not only the question, but the answer. The trick is highlight from right to left, and it will read it a lot faster than if you highlight from left to right. Don't know why. Maybe it's my computer, but I found out that's a lot faster. Colleen?
So there was a great question in the chat from Sean Murphy. How does ReadSpeaker work on links or URLs in a Canvas page? And how does it read them? And are they clickable? So we've got a lot going on here.
Okay, first off, in a Canvas page, it is not going to tell you it is a link because we are not a screen reader. Screen readers identify links. Okay, web readers read what is written on the page, and we are a web reader. So are the links clickable? If you made them clickable, yes. then you could click on it and it would launch however you ask it to launch, whether it's in window or in a new tab. But the reader itself is not going to tell you that. Colleen, were there other questions?
There was one additional question about if ReadSpeaker was an additional charge. And of course, there is an additional charge. It's an additional product through the integration into all of those top learning management platforms, making it available for all learners. We can work with you. We know budgets are tight, but we really believe in our product and we know that it can do great things for learners. So as I mentioned in the chat, before we hop off, I'm going to show you the presentation and then the links down at the bottom where you can request a demo or learn more. So I will address that at the very end.
I do want to address one thing about reading math, and this is something, it is not a ReadSpeaker thing. This is a Canvas thing. Canvas has to where they treat anything you enter through something other than text in the HTML pages or in pages. They treat it as a graphic, a single vector graphic, SVG. There is a way to convert it back to HTML so that you can read it. Right click on it, go to Math Settings, and then to Math Renderer. Notice it has the SVG checked. I'm going to check HTML CSS. Now I can highlight it and it will read it.
Square root of x minus 2 equal 21. Integral sub 2 to the 5th x dx.
And you can see that. If I had it read this picture, it's going to read the alt text on it. Colleen?
Fantastic, Ginger. Thank you so much for taking us on a little tour. We are heading into the top of the hour. So if there are any additional questions, please come on off mute or pop them in the chat rather, and we can get those answered for you. So go ahead and do that. What you're seeing here are the resources that will be included in Jim's follow-up email. So at the top, we have our ReadSpeaker text-to-speech resources, Quality Matters. Here's the master's class link. You can take you right over there. The certified courses, Jim, this one's for you. The QM event, right, for the November conference. Come on in. ReadSpeaker is going to be there, so we'd love to see you there. Some universal design for learning links, CAST, great partners. Visit their website. You'll find ReadSpeaker there as well. And then, of course, designing for engagement and inclusivity, some random little links at the bottom. Learning more, take you to our ReadSpeaker website, and contact ReadSpeaker is going to give you an opportunity to request a demo. And look at us, 2 minutes to go.
I want to hop to a message, please. This one is from Darla Dunlap. It says, can the text be made darker? You can adjust the colors however you want. So if you put a stark, bright background, it makes the text stick out more or appear darker than if you use a darker background.
Okay, excellent. Any other final thoughts from our presenters?
Is ReadSpeaker available for or in Blackboard? Is it an app in the
Yes.
LMS or an extension added to the web browser? Oh, did you answer that already? Right?
We are available in Blackboard Learn 9.1 as a block still, and in Blackboard Ultra, we are in LTI 1.3, and we read, the bulk of it. We're also available in Canvas, Brightspace, Moodle, and Open LMS, sorry.
Last one, are you using HSP tool for audio? I don't know what that means.
I don't know. These are our own voices that we have created that we are using. So I'm not certain how they push the audio through, but I know we develop those voices. H5P, we are working on that integration so that we are in that. I do know that H5P is now in Brightspace, and we are working on the ability to expand into that area.
Absolutely. Yep. Very good. Yeah, so we are in all the top management programs or platforms, and we're working on other integrations all the time. Thank you so much for being here with us. We're so happy to have everybody. Jim, back to you for closing thoughts.
I have no other closing thoughts. I want to thank you, Colleen, for hosting, and for Brenda, Jolene, and Ginger. Thank you, ReadSpeaker. Thank you, Idaho Digital Learning Alliance. And Brenda, thank you, Quality Matters. So that's it. Send out the recording, and you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.